And action. Hey everyone, it's DrRic. The question of the day is the difference between night owls and early birds, or early larks. So this is from Sam, and I'm going to be answering a question from Jan as well. So if this is the first time you're finding me, please hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button to find out when I do new videos. A lot of the videos I do are on common questions or really good questions that a patient of the day is going to ask. And usually it's a recurrent question that I think other people would benefit from when we talk about the answer. So early birds versus night owls. There's something called circadian rhythm that our bodies are used to. And ultimately, circadian rhythm is based on sun and moon. So in the majority of humans, we rise in the morning to start the day, do the chores, and we go to sleep at night when the sun drops. Just in prehistoric times, I think that we have to commune together at night when the sun drops, hopefully around a fire, because of predation. I mean, we do better in numbers, but still, predators that are at night, and usually most meat-eating predators come out at night, nocturnal, will still be able to overwhelm us, but in numbers, we might be able to defend and save the species. So, as evolution came on, the tendency was to do the chores, tend to the fields, remember hunter-gatherers, during the daytime, and do as much as possible, and then again get home at night because of pure exhaustion. So that would speak of the Benjamin Franklin phrase, early to bird, early to rise, keeps a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So and that isn't necessarily true. So you have to go with evidence. I have to go with evidence-based medicine. So the majority of times I see somebody in the clinic that has to phase shift or work a shift, like a police officer, a firefighter, a nurse. 12-hour shifts for nurses are terrible. Firefighters, where they're 24 on and 36 off or whatever that is terrible. And unfortunately, if you look at the majority of real firefighters, they usually are a little bit overweight and stressed out and having problems with sleep. Police officers, not so bad. I think their shift is a little bit different. Nobody ever wants the third shift, but they take turns. So that is good. However, we still have other issues. So bottom line is that when people take their circadian rhythm out of the usual context of waking up and when the sun rises and going to sleep when the sun sets, then you will have, in my opinion, a higher rate of disease, higher rate of obesity, higher tendency to have mood disorder, a higher tendency to eat and or take advantage of those things at night that you might or might not have control about. Eating, drinking, smoking, dangerous behavior. So that's usually the college age group. And in fact, in college, we try to push the envelope because parties, I don't remember this, but I think it was parties in the halls that my fraternity used to rent would have to be finished at 1, I think it is, but I don't know nowadays. So you have to have last call and then everybody has to get home. But usually there's eating after the party and then people get to sleep at 3. And then everybody's hungover the next morning in the cafeteria. And then on Monday, everybody's hungover from the weekend. And then that's why usually Monday morning, the first class is when everybody would have the lowest grades, or that accumulated score at the end of the semester. The class was on Monday morning would usually be the most difficult one that patients or that students would have a problem with. So and then the productivity as far as Monday morning and accidents on the job as far as Monday morning are usually higher. If you look around the world, the highest time of all 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, highest time of myocardial infarction occurs around the world at 6 to 9 a.m. on Monday. And how does the heart know that? It's usually because of the stress and perhaps because of the catching up of sleep. But we're getting off topic. So just between night owls and early birds. Is there one beneficial more than another? Well, if you are genetically inclined, and there's people that exist in both realms, and I think there's a reason for that. I've always said that if we all, as humans, went to sleep at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. when the sun went down, then somebody would eat us, and the species would die off. But we don't, because there's occasional people who stay up late at night or had a tendency to stay up later. So thank God, because I think that's the built-in mechanism of why we have variations to night owls and early birds. Is because the species needs somebody to be able to stay awake or be more of a heightened arousal state. So just in case there's predation at night, that person would alarm and protect, or build up the fire, or start making noises, wake the rest of the clan up. That's my assumption. Now, there have been some studies, again, the most recent, if you look at NIH and what was released at Northwestern University in April of this year, 2018, I think it was a retrograde study that went back and looked at about 433,000 British adults and tried to devise whether the majority of people were night owls or early birds. I think altogether there are more night owls, but it also showed that the night owls that would try to fit into society, because the society and workforce and work hours are based on daytime. So if you have a night owl that tries to fit himself into a daytime routine, staying up late and waking up at 6 to get to work, the night owl would usually have a problem with shifting into the social clock. And that's when you would have problems with increased mood disorder, obesity, or difficulty with controlling eating, and other diseases that come with that. So the people that were early birds, when they stayed up late, they usually wouldn't stay up late because there would be a set pattern of having drowsiness and falling asleep at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Unfortunately, I'm an early bird. I would say unfortunately, but I'm an early bird, so every time I go to a family function, when it gets to be about 9, 10 o'clock, I'm kind of really quiet. I'm always quiet anyway, but I'm definitely nodding off or falling asleep. So that makes me even more boring at a party. But and also the same thing happens with I have fallen asleep at the wheel in the morning because I stayed up late trying to force. It happened twice. I got into car accidents twice because of one time during my first residency, I stayed up all night. I think I was on a surgical rotation. Didn't get any sleep. Drove home my usual route. I fell asleep driving. Smashed into, believe it or not, a neurologist. Luckily, everything was cool. Second time during fellowship for sports medicine, I was staying up all night to get ready for a presentation. I drove my usual drive from Lombard to Chicago, where I did my fellowship, and I fell asleep. I woke up plowing right into a truck, and not a fun thing to happen, but that was because of I was early bird that was forced to be a night owl, so I had to phase shift into a circadian rhythm I wasn't used to. So what happened? My brain said, okay, I'm sleepy now and it's boring. I'm going to go to sleep now. And then I went to sleep. In fact, the Exxon Valdez was said, the captain said to have fallen asleep at the wheel, causing that oil to go into the ocean, and one of the most expensive catastrophes of oil in the world. So that, in addition to other things, would, in adjusting your sleep pattern, would account for why some people that try to live in a circadian rhythm that they're not built for will have disease. So there's some anecdote, and there's also some powerful studies that have shown that there's two factions. And when you try to live, if you immediately try to shift, like some of the firefighters do, into a shift that you're not built for or you're not ready for, you're going to have some problems. If you have no choice and you have to do it, the suggestion is you slowly do it an hour at a time earlier into the shift, but work will not allow that, and it's very difficult. So the bottom line with this thing, Sam, is that if you are a night owl, there's no problems with it. There's no problem with staying up late, but you really have to. The brain requires at least 6 cycles of rapid eye movement, REM, per night. That's how the brain repairs itself. And when the brain repairs itself, there's something called glial cells that are very active. Glial cells, they're like white blood cells for the brain. They take care of destroying tissue, fibrous tissue, bacteria, viruses, inflammation, and they clean up, and then they become dormant during the day. So the deeper the sleep you have, the better this works, the better the neurons get rewired so that everything you learned from the daytime in the frontal lobe gets put away into memory, in the temporal lobes. Now, if you have interrupted sleep, or you try to take that, go to sleep at 12, wake up at 8, you try to take that and say, go to sleep at 12, but wake up at 6, you just cut yourself 2 hours short, and the brain, you just lost probably 1 or 2 cycles of REM. And in theory, the brain didn't have enough time to rejuvenate. If the brain isn't refreshed, adrenal glands don't get rebuilt. And when the adrenal glands don't get rebuilt and ready for the morning, then you have problems. So if you're built for one of the two, night owl, early bird, try to stick to that as best as you possibly can. But be careful when you have to shift over into a new job, a new school year, a new shift, and give yourself a little bit of leeway. For my early birds who wake up, when you stay up late, be careful. Your brain's going to ask for some repayment or payback. And sometimes you'll get it when you're doing tasks, when you're driving, when you're cutting things, when you're precariously balanced on a ladder. So be very careful. Or when you're doing your taxes, or when you're lecturing, or when you're taking a test. So just be careful about the shift. Know that the brain will always catch up. Even if you can force caffeine in, you're going to have either a side effect of the caffeine, or the brain's going to ask for payback sooner or later. So there's no problems in existing in either of the two phases. Jan had a question also, I might as well answer it now, about if you're trying to get to sleep and you have a TV in your room. Hey, check out my video, DrRic tutorial reset your clock, on how to reset your circadian rhythm. I also talk about REM. And I've also had SlideShare presentations on sleep. So anyway, I could not find any great data about how long before you go to sleep that you're supposed to shut down the TV, but you are not supposed to expose these eyes to a screen, artificial light, because artificial light has been, again, linked to disease, a mood disorder, obesity, diabetes, but artificial light is also enough to turn off. Like I'm showing lights here to show me up here. I'm showing lights, and these are bright. And the pineal gland here is supposed to secrete melatonin when sundown occurs. So for me, I put earplugs in and I put an eye mask on at night, and I have my essential oils, sandalwood, and I calm. So all that stuff I used to induce sleep, in addition to, and this is supposed to close the eyes because I don't want that the source of light, whether it's a small night light or the bathroom light in case somebody walks in the bathroom, or light from a computer somewhere. If my eyes don't see any light, then the pineal gland starts to make melatonin on its own, and melatonin sets the brain up for slow wave. When the brain experiences slow wave, it'll start to dive into slower and slower waves. That's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then bingo, REM is hit. And if the brain tastes REM, that's when glial cells occur, that's when refreshing occurs, that's when adrenal glands build up. So that's the thing that you need. Again, I think we come out of REM and then go back down into the stages, come out of REM, go back down into the stages. Some people are very fast to go out of REM, and those are the people that are hyper awake. Again, that's probably another story or another lecture. But when you have that circadian rhythm, when you have the REM cycles that go down, and you get at least 6 at night if you're lucky, and everything's beautiful, and circadian rhythm is also adjusted and or backed up with your GI rhythm, because there's also rhythm of eating and secretion of acid, then everything's great. You're bulletproof. You should live to 100 without being in a nursing home, driving independently, eating and making decisions on your own. It's just that when you shift from one thing to the other, when you're not built for it, then it could be a problem. So good question, Sam. Good question, Jan. I can't answer that question as far as what time is best, but there was one study that said if you shut down the TV 1 hour before sleep, it might not interfere with the sleep. It might allow melatonin to be secreted. My suggestion is get the TV out of the bedroom. And if you're going to listen to an iPad or your telephone or watch, I would rather have you, before you get into bed, sanctuary. Bed should be sanctuary. You shouldn't be ready for bed unless you're going to make love or unless you're going to go to sleep. So if you're going to have to watch something, you got to be up. If you have no choice and you have to listen to something, like you want to listen to an app, fine. Turn it on, start playing it before you get into bed. Turn around the screen, put the phone or your iPad underneath the pillow and just listen to it that way. Turn the volume down a little bit so it's not too distracting or too noisy. And hopefully you'll be doing your ritual, your breath exercises, and your ritual to go to sleep, and then your brain fades off. So that's what I would do. That is a good question, Jan. So both of you, great questions. For the rest of you, if you had any comments down below, the use of melatonin, the use of 5-HTP at night, maybe magnesium, other things in the morning to wake you up, or how long before you shift back, how long, leave them down below. I'll see if I can answer them. Otherwise, I'll see you in the clinic.